Hello, boys. This is Hades the Mutualist coming at you. Uh, this is my third attempt at making this video because things have just kept getting in the way. But I'm testing out this new recording software I'm going to use for streaming soon, so I decided to pick out an easy video to go over. And, the easiest videos, the lowest hanging fruit is, PragerU. So I thought it would be fun to go through capitalism versus socialism in respect to another mutualist YouTuber, Osiris the Mutualist. Hopefully I can give some interesting perspectives on this video because, I'm sure they're going to make great points that will spark very enlightening discussions. Okay, let's begin.
Capitalism versus socialism. We can sum up each economic system in one line. Capitalism is based on human greed. Socialism is based on human need, right?
Nope. I'm sure this is like, his skeptical hypothesis that he's going to debunk. This is his foil right here. But, socialism doesn't have to be based on need. It's like a pretty broad range of ideologies, either based on giving workers their full product or, satisfying needs with something like a communist society. I'm sure he's going to have a brilliant characterization ahead of us.
No. Wrong.
Wrong.
It's
Wrong.
Exactly backwards. And I'll prove it to you. Been on Amazon lately?
No.
Each of the thousands of products Amazon offers represents the work of people who believe they have something you want or need.
So, a market.
If they're right, they prosper. If they're wrong, they don't. That's how the free market works.
So, it's based on need. Well, it's all... How can you say that? Because they're only in the market because of greed. This is kind of a doing a disservice to, like, the objectivist Ayn Rand types, because they're like very staunch advocates of capitalism. Like, they think it's the only moral system, and they base literally their whole ideology on greed. So I don't know what he's saying. It's exactly the opposite. Obviously these libertarians don't feel that way. But going back to the market question, no, in a lot of ways the market for capitalism isn't free, and it really can't be, because it has to be regulated in a way so that workers have to give up some of their paycheck to their boss. If they could actually compete with bosses, then the bosses can force them to work below their natural wage, which would be its full product.
It encourages people to improve their lives by satisfying the needs of others. No one starts a business making a thing or providing a service for themselves.
That's a pretty hasty generalization. Some people start out making personal items and then go big, but
They start a business to make things or provide services for others. I speak from personal experience. When I was the CEO of the company that owns Carl's Jr. and Hardee's restaurant chain.
Oh my God, a CEO defending capitalism? Who would have thought? It's almost like it's in his interest to do so.
We spent millions of dollars every year trying to determine what customers wanted. If our customers didn't like something, we changed it. And
so it's marketing. Capitalism does marketing, so capitalism is good. Okay.
Fast. Because if we didn't, our competitors would, pun intended, eat us for lunch. The consumer...
I feel like a lot of fast food chains could stay the way they are for a while and they wouldn't really get eaten up. There's not a lot of changes in something like McDonald's, and they're still the biggest chain ever. They make slight changes, but they don't really have to. They've even gotten kind of worse. Like those apple pies they make, it's a shit now. They used to have good apple pies, but they went to shit now. Bring back the apple pies, McDonald's, if you're watching. I'll become a capitalist if you bring them back, please. But anyways, yeah, this is really wrong, because a lot of capitalist enterprise doesn't really rely on competition. It just kind of exists in the void because they have intellectual property or some kind of patent that just secures them an income that isn't necessarily with competition. So, a lot of capitalist enterprise just gets funding from the state or, has that intellectual property. And, when capitalists accumulate their capital, they can, bargain with the state to get privileges, which can't really be avoided. Even in like the ANCAP system, people accumulate these resources and basically, they develop private armies, which, they can make the market a little less free with the private armies if, it suits their interest.
Consumer, that's you, has the ultimate power. In effect, you vote with every dollar you spend. In a socialist economy, the government has the ultimate power.
Yeah, so I went, they're doing the classic, the socialism is when the government does stuff, but I went over the difference between capitalism and socialism in my other video, again, Springtime of Nations. The socialist economy doesn't really have to have a government, as opposed to the capitalist economy, which really kind of does need a government to sustain itself long term, and even if it didn't have a government, it would need some kind of similarly oppressive institution to maintain it. So, yeah, this is a pretty bad generalization, but I assume he's going to attack the state socialist governments now.
It decides what you get from a limited supply it decides should exist.
Okay.
Instead of millions of people making millions of decisions about what they want, a few people, government elites, decide what people should have and how much they should pay for it.
So, I mean, there could be like a democratic socialism, but it doesn't really remove the possibility of this kind of like centralization of power, but, most of the ML states weren't, they were Taylorist or, top-down systems, but it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, I'm sure there's schemes for state socialist economies which are very democratized and bottom up. But yeah, this is a pretty hasty generalization. It's unspecific, so they just kind of paint it with a broad brush because it's convenient.
Not surprisingly, they always get it wrong.
Oh.
Have you ever noticed that late-stage socialist failures always run out of essential items like toilet paper?
Is toilet paper really essential? I mean, yeah, there's like luxury goods that are missing, and some state socialist economies like the USSR, for example, the economy kind of trended towards heavy industry because the government, it's in the government's kind of best interest to support those industries. But that's probably a good criticism of like Marxist-Leninist economies.
Of course, this isn't a problem for those who have the right connections with the right people.
Okay, this is also kind of true for the state socialist governments. People in power can leverage with the people. They can like give benefits to their friends or their kin or whatever.
Those chosen few get whatever they want, but everyone else is out of luck.
Oh.
Venezuela.
So everyone's poor in socialist society except for the government, which is what I'm learning.
Once the richest country in South America, is the most recent example of socialism driving a prosperous country into an economic ditch.
Or, Venezuela based most of their economy on one commodity, which probably isn't good. Yeah, and then the prices for that went whack, and then, Venezuela went kind of whack when those prices went whack. It's kind of wacky how that happens when you base your whole economy around one commodity, like oil. But yeah, does he explain why the government doing stuff or people owning their instruments of labor, why that crashes the economy? Let's see.
Now, maybe you think it's an unfair example. I'm not sure why, but okay. We'll ignore the fact that leftist activists celebrated it as a great socialist success right up until it wasn't.
Are these like Twitter users? I mean, leftist activists could literally be anybody. Do they list anybody?
But what about Western European countries? Don't they have socialist economies?
Yes. No, they don't. He's probably going to talk about the social democracies. Yeah.
People seem pretty happy there.
They do seem pretty happy there. They're like the happiest in the world, perhaps. Like Denmark and Finland or whatever. They're consistently ranked like happiest countries in the world. So
what they have: free healthcare, free college, stronger unions. Good question. And the answer may surprise you. There are
Ooh,
no socialist countries in Western Europe.
it's crazy.
Most are just as capitalist as the United States.
Yep.
The only difference, and it's a big one, is that they offer more government benefits than the US does.
Yeah, they do. And, that kind of helps people out.
We can argue about the cost of these benefits and the point at which they reduce individual initiative.
Giving money to the homeless people kind of, it reduces initiative for the Squid Games to, collect the debtors and make them, battle royale for a bunch of money. It kind of reduces that kind of initiative, but
Thus doing more harm than good. Scandinavians have been debating those questions for years. But only a free market capitalist economy can produce the wealth necessary to sustain all of the supposedly free stuff Europeans enjoy. To get the free stuff, after all, you have to create enough wealth to...
Oh my god. Okay, so this is gonna be like the tanky arguments for the state socialist countries where they need to develop their productive forces. He's gonna mirror the exact same argument for fucking capitalism. This is kind of funny. Kevin Carson talks about this in studies in mutualist political economy. People say the capitalists mirror this exact argument with the development of capitalism in like the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, where the state intervention expropriated massive amounts of peasants into basically homelessness, where they were struggling to survive, and brutal policies concerning their treatment, like actual torture was allowed to like put these poor people into line. Like it's really brutal. I think a quote from Marx on the proletarianization, it's called, is like it's written in letters of blood and fire. Just it's pretty ironic seeing the same arguments from tankies and also capitalists, but
to generate enough tax revenue to pay for everything the government gives away.
Oh,
Without capitalism, you're Venezuela.
why?
In a 2015 speech at Harvard, Denmark's prime minister took
I
great
guess
pains to
I
make
don't
this
know.
point. I
They're
know
not gonna
that
tell
some
us.
people in the U.S. associate the Nordic model with socialism. Therefore, I would like to make one thing clear. Denmark is far from a socialist planned economy. Denmark is a market economy.
God bless.
So when you point to Denmark as a paragon of socialism, you're really singing the praises of capitalism.
No, not
The more
really.
capitalism, the less socialism you need.
Okay, so it's not socialism, but also it is socialism when you have welfare, because otherwise, how do these bars make sense? Are they talking about like state-owned industry versus privately owned industry? Because no shit, if you have more privately owned industry, there's gonna be less socially owned industry, and vice versa. It's not really causal. It's just how math works.
Look at America since 2017. A policy of lower taxes and less government regulation, that's more capitalism.
There's a more so he's being really fluid with these terms.
Has led to a robust economic expansion, something thought impossible just a
Impossible.
few years earlier. Unemployment, notably among...
I want to see this graph. So, economy up, low government regulation and taxes. It's pretty scientific. They have units. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. There's six economies. It's crazy.
Unemployment, notably among minority groups, typically most at risk for poverty,
Okay, so they care only about minority groups when they can use them like playing cards. Gotcha.
is at a generational low. Economic expansion gets people off welfare and into work. That's less socialism.
It's less socialism? Wait, so it's less socialism when people work. So more economic expansion, more jobs, less welfare. That's capitalism. I guess. He doesn't really talk about why this happens. He just
That's
says
less
it does.
socialism. None of this requires a degree in economics.
Just
Common sense is all you need.
just learn basic economics. That's like what every libertarian dude bro who's like 13 says on the internet. It's their mantra. If you learn like actual economics, then a lot of what bullshit artists and demagogues like Prager universities say don't make any sense. Like, they try to associate how well the economy is doing with like the president. So like they'll say, "Oh my God, Obama sucked. He oversaw the fucking the housing crisis," and then they'll sing the praises of Trump. There's like, "Oh my God, the economy is doing so well," but if you like look at the data, like it's been continually raising since like Obama. It's not me sucking Obama's dick or anything. I'm not like an Obama fan, but it's just not how economics works. The PragerU doesn't do this here, but conservatives in general really their understanding of economics is really dubious, to say the least.
That's why it's so frustrating to see young people praising socialism and criticizing capitalism. It's bad enough that they're working against their own interests. Better job prospects.
Better jobs. So private ownership of production means better jobs. Except, I mean, even in like the most totalitarian Marxist-Leninist state, they secured, like the USSR, they secured people jobs. Like there wasn't really joblessness in the USSR, but okay.
Better wages,
Better wages, okay. So like even if we transitioned into like a market socialist society, like right now, people's wages would go up because the system requires people to give away part of their wages. It's crazy, I know. The natural wage is higher than the wages we have right now. But, they don't want to tell us that because it kind of nullifies their point. More freedom, except, the capitalism needs a giant police force and military and state apparatus and military industrial complex to keep it running.
But they're also working against the interest of the less fortunate.
Oh.
Capitalism leads to economic democracy.
Really? Economic democracy? I mean, if I may be wrong here, but isn't like the whole mantra of like which Richard Wolff is like democratize the workplace? I don't really see this democracy in the workplace right now.
Socialism leads to the economic dictatorship of the elite.
It's the dictatorship of the elite. It's almost like it's the dictatorship of the bourgeois.
Always and everywhere.
Always.
So beware what you ask for. You just might get it.
Yeah.
I'm Andy Puzzler, the author of...
Please, PragerU, make this a mutual society. I am dying to get what I ask for. Okay.
The capitalist comeback for Prager University.
Well, this was a funny video. I hope you enjoyed my commentary. I'm trying to get better at making videos and stuff. Hopefully I can refine this channel. This is like a channel update right now. I want to like do some cool things with this channel, like go over Proudhon and compare properties and stuff like that, like property schemes. I want to make a video on mutual credit as well, but those are just some ideas I have. I don't really want to fall into a consistent formula. I want to experiment, and hopefully that continues. Hopefully this provides a kind of a good snapshot of, my position. I'd like to make more videos, as I've said, and I think I'm gonna stream something later this week, so if you're interested in that, stay around. This is Hades the Mutualist, and I'll see you in the next video.